So how are you going? You all right?
Yeah, going good, going good. Yeah, just a lot going on. But I mean, it's fun because I really enjoyed having Rob here last time, but
Yeah.
I feel like it's basically been a month since you and I have really
Yeah.
talked about what we're doing. So I've been looking
Yeah.
forward to this as well.
Yeah. Like we talked about some good things. Like
We
I
did.
I
Yeah.
enjoyed I enjoyed the change up. I enjoyed a different perspective. Um, and Rob's obviously super knowledgeable guy. Been in it for quite some been in the industry and the market and in the beast in the super tanker as in Microsoft. So knows a lot of stuff that maybe you and insights that you and I don't have. But yeah, it was good. It was I really enjoyed it. What were
Yeah,
some of
me
your
too.
takeaways after?
I think one of the things that really struck me from what he said was that he was kind of like the need for the top leadership to just kind of go all in without even really knowing at that point what that means.
Mm,
Um, and that's what the shareholders, that's what you know the market wants to see. And
mm,
so,
mm,
it's funny because I think at least I tend to look at it from the at the detail level of like, from the product manager standpoint, and it's kind of like, okay,
yeah.
why are they doing it this way? Why are they implementing AI in this particular way? And I even wrote a, piece about that today. And it's like what he said made a ton of sense to me, which is that when you're getting your CEO and top leadership just having pressure to say, okay, we're all in on AI before
Mm,
there's necessarily any conversation of what that means operationally, it
mm,
puts you in a really tough spot. And yeah, I hadn't
mm,
really, I hadn't really thought of it from that perspective. That um, the organizations I've been in have always been kind of bottom up in terms of technically driven, science and technically driven. And so,
yeah.
it's kind of like decisions are made based on the data, based on the science. And, what he seemed to indicate was that in some of those decisions, they're just coming from the top and you got to figure out the technical later. And I thought that was a really interesting observation.
Yeah. Oh, that's definitely happening. I mean, I think that we've been on the same page on it. And I certainly believe that, and it's actually shown to be true. Like big tech are just going to keep getting bigger. They are getting bigger every quarter. If you look and listen to what people are talking about around the numbers, and even Google's getting bigger. Like their revenue's growing. Like they're all going to get so much bigger. But I don't think every decision they're making is going to work out. I
Oh,
don't
no,
like, and
no.
I'm seeing, that's something I've reflected on over the last couple of weeks is that I don't think Microsoft are making the greatest decisions at like the individual software layer in a lot of cases. They're not going to win every single battle down here. They're going to win the big battle. Their cloud business is going to grow like absolute crazy. They're going to be absolutely fine. They're going to continue to be one of the biggest companies in the world. But down at the individual piece of software layer, I think that they're just unable to move the super tanker to win every single thing. And like maybe things that they've won in the past, they're just not going to have the best solution in the future because it doesn't fit their master plan. Like I would even go as far to say that this is already playing out in the Power BI market. Like Power BI is opening up a massive opportunity for AI analytics software to come in and take over the small to medium sized market. Like they have completely run away from it, in my opinion, right? So, that because they have bigger plans, right? They want to get their institutional customers paying more cloud. Like that's kind of the
Right.
strategy. So, um, so that was kind of like my summary of that line of thinking in the last couple of weeks. I mean, I've actually kind of always thought that, but it just gets more and more confirmed every time I see non-action or some action occurring from that space.
I liked his analogy a lot where he said you're looking at it from the standpoint of a baseball game where everybody gets three strikes, but
Yeah.
that's not true. That like basically
Mm,
this company gets 3 strikes and Microsoft gets 27 strikes. And
Totally.
it's not a fair game played, on an even playing field. And again,
Yeah.
I thought that was particularly for the huge organizations that own a lot of compute, as you say, that kind of
Yeah.
have a whole nother game within the game going on with the cloud business.
Yeah.
The Amazons, the Googles, the Oracles, the Microsofts. It's like their rules and their game are just different.
You should, I don't know, you've heard some of the numbers coming out of these companies. Like they're absolutely obscene in the cloud and AI like space. Like just I actually wrote them down on my notebook because I wanted to bring them up. Like these companies are going to get so massive. It's like unbelievable. Unbelievable. Like I'm talking like they could be double the size in 5 years, which is kind of hard to fathom, right? Because they're already worth trillions of dollars. But um Anthropic just got valued at $100 billion off $4 billion of revenue. Um Meta's building a data center as big as Manhattan.
I saw that too.
There's been double the amount of token increase since May globally. Since May, double.
I actually think that's an understatement because I'll
Probably.
bet with
Yeah,
Claude Code, I'll bet people are just burning tokens like
I
a
know.
forest
I'm
fire
spinning up
now.
four things. Spinning up four
Yeah,
windows. I just run AI all day.
I've got
So
stuff running now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's going to Google grew their cloud business by 30% in 1 year. 30% for a billion-dollar company already. I've heard similar things about Microsoft a couple of months ago. Um, yeah, there's more. Like these businesses. I mean, I was even listening to a podcast this morning saying that um, we could need $1 trillion of spending on data centers, but within like annually in 2030. So like when we hit 2030, we might be spending as a globe $1 trillion on just data centers every single year. Like like honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if these guys forget about all the software businesses because they're going to be minuscule in terms of how big these cloud businesses are that are going to feed AI. Like it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Well, while you're talking, I just looked up the open route. I love looking at the open router rankings, and um, right now Anthropic leads for the week. Sonnet for five over almost 600 billion tokens for the week.
600 billion. Wow.
For the
Wow.
week.
And that's open router and they're not seeing what I'm putting through Claude Code, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't
I
even
mean,
their four models like Opus 4 and Sonnet 4 are just they're so superior to the other ones right now. Like I even tried to use Gemini's console version that they have, and it's terrible. Like it's absolutely terrible. Um, and then I spin up four Claude codes, and I'm just working on my apps, and it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that Anthropic is worth $100 billion. I'm not even surprised. That I think they. So I remember I told you they went from 1 billion to 4 billion in like 3 months or something.
yeah.
Yeah, I think they added an additional 1 billion of revenue in like 3 weeks. I just heard the other day. Like the numbers are just insane. Like as
And
soon
like
as
a
you,
month ago, Claude Code didn't exist.
I
Like,
know Claude Code has opened everyone's eyes about what agents are. Like that they
yeah.
are like agents are coming for the majority of work. And they're going to be embedded into the majority of work. I listened to a short podcast about Walmart. Walmart have decided to go all in on agents in some form, but it's inevitable, right? I remember we talked about a few episodes ago when we were chatting about like as soon as you go agentic, there's no going back, right? Like you can just as soon as a software can go agentic, you just can spin up multiple agents, and then doing any other way is just so slow in comparison.
Well, I mean, it's funny because we talked about, with MCP, the barrier being the difficulty of installing these things. And now with Claude Code, where you've got basically the equivalent of what I use Desktop Commander for, which is the
Mm,
local terminal and file usage. You can just say, okay, like, you know, give me a review of the pros and cons of Puppeteer versus Playwright, and
mm,
whichever one you recommend, go ahead and install it, and it'll
yeah.
just do it. It'll just download it. It'll access your configuration file. It'll ask you. It'll make the changes, and it just does it. It's like, I've had it redoing my Python environments. I mean, it, not only have they solved the problem, but it's now in some sense, it's so good you have to watch it to make sure it doesn't do more than you want.
Oh, it's yeah, I agree. It's still not perfect. I'll say, like, from my experiences, like, it is incredible. It's so much better than what we've had before. But I've had it still Claude Code go off and do some random stuff on my apps that I've been building, and that has been somewhat frustrating. I find myself yelling at it occasionally, but it's still incredible. Like, still massive productivity boost, but it's still not perfect. No doubt about it.
Well, there's actually one of the things I really become enamored of is running Claude Code within Rue Code, because the nice thing about that is you can run Claude Code in a terminal window or multiple terminal windows. But then what you've also got is you have the ability to configure your MCP authorizations by
Mm,
project and by tool. So
okay.
and so at the beginning of a session, you can just pop it up and say, okay, click, 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 click. These are the ones I'm going to authorize all. These are the ones I'm going to authorize one, and these are the ones I'm going to decline completely.
Yeah.
And it's really nice because you can just think a little bit at the beginning of a session about how much oversight you want, and
Mm.
then you can just take that, and it's totally dynamic within the course of a single chat, which I really, really like.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't used it there. I've solely used it in the terminal
Mm,
thus far. Um, I because I've been using, I usually spin up 3 to 4 Lord codes at one time, because I can't, what I find is that I can't actually handle anymore. I can't keep track of what's going on if I
right.
do more than that.
I
Um,
find even four is difficult.
yeah,
And
sometimes it
two is
is.
like,
Yeah, it sort of depends. Like, it's so interesting. Like, as I've been working, I think, okay, sometimes I walk. It's honestly like working with people. Like, it just feels like I'm
it
an
does.
orchestrator of people. I come into my computer, I turn on my transcription, and then I just start talking into this terminal. I start talking, and then sometimes in the morning, I've had my coffee. I've got a lot of great ideas. I just start spinning things. I'm like, do this, do this, do this, do this. And then later in the afternoon, when I get a bit weary, I'm like, okay, let's really focus on one feature here. Let's not do too much at once. Like, it's seriously fascinating. What type of, like, work, what the new workflow is and will become for more and more things. Like, it definitely has to. I was going to say, I can almost guarantee that Anthropic are running out of compute, because I have been getting so many errors lately. So many errors,
Yep,
like
yep.
timeout requests, like, not errors,
They
but
just
like,
put the weekly caps in.
yeah, they everyone like, some think these data center investments are big. I'm telling you, they are just the start. There is going to be such a need for this stuff. Like, people are going to want to have AIs running all day, every day, doing every little thing for them. Like, these big data center investments, like that Stargate and all that. This is just the beginning. Like, there isn't enough even now. There isn't even enough with what's coming on, in terms of what's coming, like, in terms of what's going to be needed. It's crazy. It's
It's
absolutely
interesting. Your
insane.
point a few episodes back about kind of the small but constant tax on intelligence has just proven so completely true. And the thing is, it's not even small anymore, because like there's a great framework called string.com. I don't know if you've played around with it yet. It's another pipe dream product. And
Oh, you know, I just came across this today. I just came across it. I think it came out over my email and I clicked on it.
yeah, yeah, that Todd is the CEO, and he typically sends out stuff about this. And he sent one. I saw the same message today, and one of the cool things about it was they've dramatically cut the token price by like 45%
Mm.
because the first time I used this, I ran up $75 worth of tokens like in like a couple hours. I mean,
Doing what?
I was building some pretty complicated agentic workflows.
Okay.
And so what it does, it kind of I mean, it's really neat in that you specify um, via just via text or voice kind of the workflow you want, and then it it disaggregates it and then builds each section, and then you validate the sections one by one, and then it kind of pieces together. So it's kind of doing, I think, very much what you're doing in CloudCode with agents, but with a much more user-friendly face over top of it. And also, I think what it does is, I'm not positive about this, but I think if you like, I was working on a workflow where um, I wanted to check weather in a certain region, and then if there was a hurricane or a tropical storm on the way, to forecast the path, and then alert me to critical infrastructure in the potentially in the path. And so in terms of like one of the workflow steps being like pulling weather forecasts, it has validated code for those sorts of operations. And so
Mm.
I think what it does is when you go through and build something new, I think it validates that process and then can use that. It doesn't use your data, but I think it does kind of capture the process if it's generalizable. And then that becomes something you can then use to build other stuff more quickly, if that makes sense.
Mm. Yeah,
And
interesting.
it's a really neat process. But man, I just lit $75 worth of the tokens on fire in like 2 hours. I mean,
Yeah.
I saw the meter just spinning. It was just millions, going through.
Just think of this business model though. Just think, because it's not like you and I are going to want to. It's kind of like I mean, just think big picture. Okay, it's kind of multiplying humanity, right? So in the past, we were sort of trading in between with each other, with humans, right? But there could be a point, right, where each human is augmented by all of these agents running around working with each other. Like it's kind of like this multiplication effect of humanity in terms of like doing stuff, like in the economy and things like that. It's kind of it's big picture sort of thinking, but I mean, this is such a crazy time. Like I think like a lot of what we deemed as common beliefs in business, in the economy, and I think a lot of those are going to be showing up to like not really actually be right in this new era. You know, I'm seeing it like a lot. Like one of the in a business sense, one of the things that I'm starting to like really believe is that I've kind of believed it for a while is that there's so much talk about is this product defensible? Is it going to be a one winner take all market? Like all of these things that were sort of truisms of the past. I think AI is just such a big market that there's just going to be so many winners in all these different markets. Um, and I think there's just one common belief that might get disrupted, you know, like, and I think there's going to be lot of other ones. So a lot of other ones
What's
in
like
this.
an example of what you're thinking about in that regard?
So so many people are saying that the valuations of Lovable and Bolt and Cursor and Windsurf and Klein and all of these things are not, you know, they're not valued at what they should. Their valuations are unrealistic because Claude Code could just come in and just like tear their business models apart.
Right.
Lovable has just become the fastest business in history to reach $100 million of ARR. like, yes, no business is going to last, can last forever, but I'm just saying, like, and this is why I always thought that vibe coding was going to be so big, right? You just think about how many people you're bringing into the market now. Like the market is just so massive. You're bringing everyone who can type something into an Excel spreadsheet, building simple software in a lot of cases, or great software. That's a 300 million person market. Like there is enough people in that market for a lot of people to be successful, right? Um, and the other thing that I don't think has even started yet, and I kind of got this idea of something I heard around Google, is these these tools, right? They're going to become platforms. They're going to become platforms. They're going to be able to. You're going to be in Lovable, and they're going to sell you, and they're going to put insert into their ad some sort of link or some button when you ask for something to do with your software. Hey, why don't you get this for $5 a month and add it to your piece of software? The same is going to be for in OpenAI. The same is going to be in Google overviews. Like
Super
the
Supabase is already doing it. You know that if you need IP4,
yeah
um, address for your database, you pay $5 extra a month. And I needed it, to connect it to
yeah
my Power BI, Power BI to Supabase.
that world hasn't even started yet. Like it's just going to be like there's just I think the valuations, whilst very high, are all like completely justified. Was valued at 1.8 billion the other day, which is crazy because I was a test user of their software. I was probably one of their first 100 users, which is kind of crazy, and it's been singing their praises for a long time. Um, yeah, like the market. I'm just saying, like in general, the market is. You think the market is big now, but you just wait until 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the track, how big the market is going to be here. Like there's going to be hundreds of millions of people building their own software. Like I don't even think that's hyperbolic. Like that is truly going to, it's just going to be like writing a Word document or creating some sort of spreadsheet, you know?
Well, I don't know if you saw Vin Vishida's post today, but I thought it was really interesting that he said basically that the thing that's actually constraining in AI investment and market size is the federal funds rate. And so the fact that the US is holding hard to, rates around 4, 4.5, he said
Mm,
if that comes down to like, 2, 2.5, he's like, you're gonna see just massive, massive growth in this market.
yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting. The kind of the explosive growth we're seeing, he's viewing as, you know, in a sense, much smaller than it would be if rates were lower.
You just think about how fast Claude has grown. And they probably only have 1 million people using their platform, probably. I mean, I don't actually know the numbers, but I'm just guessing, okay? Like, how many people do you think are using Claude Code? I don't know. Probably less than 1 million, probably. Um,
But I think those million are just burning tokens like
sure.
wildfire now.
There's 7 billion people in the world who are going to use AI. Like,
Right.
these companies are going to be absolutely massive. Like, it's absolutely insane. It's like everyone's going to have, just think about, every individual's going to have a team of digital workers in some way. Every organization is going to have digital workers, and it's not going to be, you're not going to be paying, we haven't even got into robotics or anything, but, like you're going to be paying 10% of what it costs to do, like for a human to do these jobs, but you're going to pay digital tokens to get these things done. And the quantity of work is going to be far more in a lot of cases because you'll be able to spin up multiples of these things. Man, far out, this is crazy. It's just so crazy.
Well, when you were talking about
Crazy.
kind of the team, this is something I've been saying for a long time, which is that it is like managing a team. And now I feel like it really feels like that because like I've got, on my team, like I've got a research assistant who works nights, while I'm
Yeah.
sleeping.
Yeah.
And I really like the Google Deep Research, because
Right.
Google Deep Research will go to 300, references. And and it'll pull it all together. The writing is great. I found the citations to be, solid. And so I'll just set that up like a big task before I go to bed. And I'll just set it running and wake up in the morning and it sends me an email. It says, hey, your report is
What's an
ready.
example of some research that you've done there? Because I haven't gone down this path, so I'm interested to know if I should be
Yeah,
doing.
yeah. So here's one. So I was doing an analysis of the NOAA HERDAT Atlantic hurricane data,
Oh yes, I saw
and
your
for
post.
the
Yeah.
last 25 years of hurricane data. And I
Mm.
wanted to tie that to economic damages. And so the NOAA data itself is just meteorological and ecological. So it talks about, kind of the strength of storm, the path of storm, the impacted areas, but it doesn't provide economic data on damages. And so what I did is I had I had one AI pull all the HERDAT data for that 25-year period for every Atlantic storm that made landfall in the US or territories. Then I gave that list to my Google Research Assistant and said, while I'm sleeping, go research every one of these storms and pull me the best estimates of damages for each
Mm.
one. Create a create a CSV of that, and then upload that into Supabase when you're done. And
Wow. So it actually uploads to Superbase as well. Yeah, that's crazy. Crazy.
and so I woke up the next morning. It said I'm done. I went through the data. I then joined in Supabase. I joined the two files. Did some QA/QC. Saw that there was some missing data, and saw that some of them had NA because it had just the research had come back and said minor damage. And so it didn't have a numeric estimate. So I then
Mm.
sent it back and said, okay, research what would be a good value to replace minor damage with. And because you don't want to drop them because that'll bias the results. And so, yeah,
Mm.
it was just phenomenal. It was like that would have taken me a week. If I had
Yeah.
done that, that alone would have taken me a week. And I spent probably 30 minutes, reviewing, cleaning the data.
Yeah. You know what is so interesting in that workflow though is how important you are still. You're
Yeah.
still essential, right? Like you're just, and I feel the same way when I'm working with CloudCode. So I'm so, I'm orchestrating. It's my vision. It's my ideas. It's an augmentation. It's an empowerment of an individual, right? That's all I see.
Well, there's another really cool workflow I've learned, which is that Claude Code, I'm sure as you know, is multimodal. And so what you can do is you can take a screenshot of, something. And I did this the other day with an IBCS style visual. And I said it was a really complex one. It was one of those, where it was previous year versus current year. Then it was
Mhm.
absolute variance and relative variance. So it's kind of three
Yep.
stacked visuals and a, superimposed visual. And I said, basically, build this from the data I give you. Take a, a screenshot of each iteration that you do and make sure that that screenshot is materially the same as the one I gave you. And
Yeah.
and so what it'll do is it'll basically you can go back and review the whole workflow and it'll say, okay, here's my first shot, took a screenshot, oops, that the relative value pins are not, they don't look the same. So let me go
Mm.
back and revise those.
Yeah.
Okay, now the previous year and forecast bars don't look right. Let me go back and revise that. And it's incredible in terms of, and then it'll come back and say, okay, I think these are materially the same. And then I'll look at them and say, nope, the here's two things that are still not to my level of acceptance of being being the same. So go back and redo
Yeah.
those. And so,
Yeah.
it's basically just like having a junior team member come back and say, okay, I did what you asked. Is this okay? And you go, it's good, but it's not exactly what I want. Go back and rework this. And
Yeah.
it's just amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically exactly the same as what I'm doing. Like, we'll ask her to do something. It will come back. Sometimes it will be average. And I'll be like, no, I don't like that. I was actually trying to work on like a homepage yesterday for a site. I mean, I didn't get anywhere. Like if every time I asked, oh, can you do this? It never returned anything good unless I was actually quite specific. But it was kind of, it was we were vibing. I was vibing with the AI. And it's interesting because I think you're sort of definitively showing like this is the direction that data is going, right? Like data visualization particularly. Well, like honestly, I think all data work is going this direction. I
Yeah, I
mean,
do too.
there is really no doubt in my mind. The only thing stopping it is sort of legacy. I think everyone's legacy builds and their legacy time they've spent on building things historically, but I can't see the trajectory of this changing. I really can't.
It's really, I spent a lot of time this week with Plotly Studio. They came out about a week ago, the early release version, and I'm just, I mean, it's not perfect, and the thing is that it's still early, pre-release version. So there's a lot of stuff in the roadmap that they're prioritizing that isn't implemented yet. So for example,
Yeah.
you can only drop in CSV and Parquet files now, but they're going to make it so it's MCP compatible and you can connect it to other data sources. I just saw actually today that Julius AI, which is not really my favorite, implementation of that, has now got MCP dynamic connectors, where you can just, you know, connect to your data and then have that live, with MCP. And
Mm,
the thing about it that I found is it's not only that it makes the visualization easier, it's that you do analysis differently. That in the past where you were constrained by, okay, this is a hard analysis and this is going to take me a long time. I'm not going to do it, because it's not worth me spending 3 days, estimating this model, doing a Monte Carlo simulation, creating the confusion matrix visuals and all this stuff. And now it's like you can just say, do it. And you still got to take some time to validate it, but the threshold for what you can ask for now is so much lower. That
mm.
there are things now that I'm going back to that I haven't really revisited since grad school because they were just always too time consuming and too difficult to do that it was never it was never efficient to do them. It was like I knew they were there and I've got my books on my shelf about it, how they can be done. But it's like now it's like you basically just have to set the instructions clearly, send off an agent, and it'll come back to you in half an hour and say, okay, I got it done. And
Yeah.
being able to do that changes your whole perspective on analysis.
Totally does. Like if I wanted to do so, say 3 years ago, I wanted to do Monte Carlo analysis, I probably would have had to spend 3 months in textbooks and forums just making sure I was doing it right. So, so it doesn't even take into account the learning you have to do to actually implement it. Not a lot, not just the actually doing it. You know,
Well, and the thing is too that like I'm sure when you were doing, the bond trading and everything, it's like you didn't have enough compute to do that sort of Monte Carlo analysis.
yeah,
Certainly not sitting on your desk and probably not even at your company. And
yeah.
now it's like if I need to, I can just go online, buy the compute time I need, and spin that up from my phone.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I've been saying this for a while. It's like data analytics and everything in data software, and like none of that's going away. But I just think you got to think bigger and like in everything that you're doing. You know, just building doing some data analysis like you like at the rate and the pace and the quality that you did, say, 3 years ago, it's got to be increased. All of those have to be increased. It's the same. It's the same with software. Like you can't get away with if you think you're going to become make sales of a software, without it being agentic or without AI embedded into it these days. I mean, you're dreaming in a lot of cases. Like everything you need to think bigger. You need to think bigger about all this kind of stuff because you absolutely can. And I think, I even this is a bit more philosophical, but I even think you need to do that at an individual level. Like, because I've been doing that a lot as well. I've been thinking, how do I think bigger as myself? Like maybe in the past I was like, okay, I can do this and I can do this. But what can I do now? What can I actually do now? I mean, I'm kind of actually doing it, but I'm even thinking bigger. Like, how could I build software to this is how big I'm thinking. I'm like, okay, so the world's going to need a lot more energy. How can I build software that can impact, energy, the build out of energy, or like I don't know, like health, or there's just going to be so many different things that so many people can get into, that was just absolutely unachievable in the past. Like careers at this point in time can change. You can become something totally new, totally different, and it be much, much bigger than what you've done in the past. Like that's the mentality that I keep telling myself personally.
Well, I mean, the thing that really strikes me is there's nothing you can't learn now. Yeah, and I actually just saw OpenAI. I don't know if you saw it today. They have this thing. I don't know what it's called, like educator or learner or something like that. And
Right.
basically what it does is you give it a topic, you give information, and it then comes back and it says, okay, like, do you want me to explain this to you? Do you want to go step by step? Do you want me to show it to you? Do you want me,
Right.
I can build quizzes from this. And it's like, it's not anything groundbreaking, but the way they've got it now with a really nice interface and where it's, all just, kind of easy prompt driven, it's like you literally can use that to learn anything.
Yeah, that's why I want a device that has just ChatGPT on it for my kids because that would just be awesome, right? Like, they're struggling at math, something in maths. Well, here's something that you can do after school to to enhance that instead of doing homework or whatever. Like, just
Right.
can continue to have a tutor. I mean, when I was young, my parents paid for tutors all like I used to go to tutors every week, outside of school, like these that's changing. You don't need that. You can have you can have ChatGPT.
Yeah, yeah. And it's kind of like every kid has their own private, genius tutor now. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like I have that, it's like I'll take and say, okay, like, just with Claude Code, I posted this the other day. I said to Claude Code, I said, um, give me 2 pages of your best tips and tricks, put it in
Mm,
a PDF and format it for a cheat sheet. And
yeah.
that I've actually got it. I got it right here. I keep it right by my desk. It's 2 pages of, you know,
Mhm.
Claude Code. And it's like I know how to use Claude Code now. And
That's crazy. I haven't done that as well. I haven't done it, but I mean, yeah, I mean, I talk to AIs all the time, all the time, all the time. I'm driving in my car. I'm just think the other day I wanted to learn a bit more about a database question that I was a bit confused about, and I just was in the car, turned on OpenAI, started churning away, started to get across this more challenging database thing. The other wow moment I had. I'm not sure if you've used this, and it's kind of crass at the moment, but Grok have brought out these avatars that you can talk
yeah,
to. So I know, like Elon's involved, and Twitter and Grok are very skewed, I think. But the insight was okay. So these things are very crass at the moment, but there's this one that is sort of set up for kids, and I watched my daughter use it. She wanted to do a quiz one night, like the other night, and it was the most real avatar discussion that I've had. It's kind of like OpenAI voice, but it was like an animal. It was an animal talking back to her and interacting with her like as a real shooter in some like kids tone and all that. Oh, man, that was crazy. It was just like you and I talking digitally here. You know, there was very like obviously it was like more play related with a with like a animal and stuff, but that was the first time I've sort of interact like seen an avatar interaction, like a totally non-human thing, like actually feel quite real. Because I've seen avatars before, right? But it was there's sort of like more being videos of people that are hard to tell the difference. I have not personally interacted with an avatar. I've talked to a voice a lot, like you and I do, but actually talking like this to a screen
Yeah.
with something coming back at you with the right lips and all this. Oh, man, it was yeah. These things are coming. I'm telling you, these are going to be successful. I can guarantee that these will be insanely successful, and this is what will come into OpenAI at some point. You will have avatars in OpenAI. It's so real.
Well, it was interesting because my wife doesn't use a lot of this stuff, and so the other day I was sitting on the couch, and I've gotten really enamored of this one particular type of computer that I've kind of got my eye on,
Hmm.
and it's by Corsair. It's called the Arachnid, and it's an open air design, and so I I fired up, Claude on my phone, and I just started talking to him saying, okay, like, what would be a standard configuration for doing, this type of agentic work and blah. And Sue's just sitting on the couch listening to this, and it's responding, to all my questions. And then I'm saying, okay, well, if we did that, like, would the power supply be sufficient? And there's no, you need to upgrade power supply to this. And we're just talking. And she said it was just like a conference call with like somebody really knowledgeable on the other side. She said
Mm.
it was indistinguishable from me just talking to like a sales rep, for something I was interested in buying.
Yeah.
And yeah, she said it was crazy to hear it and then find out that that was just an AI, voice on the other end.
Yeah. Well, I've been deep into AI voice technology as like, I might have hinted at it before. Like I'm building this piece of software with a friend, and we're partnering on a business that's going to be called HelpG. And so our big insight around this AI voice is okay, AI voice is awesome. You can get AI voice in lots of different things, but there's going to be a world where businesses are going to want to understand what their customers are saying in these AI voices, right? And so ChatGPT and Claude, I don't think they're ever going to share those voice interactions. Well, not that I can see, right? Like that they're just going to keep it for themselves. But there is a world where businesses might want to either have a customer service agent, they might want to have a QR code on their product, they might want to have a QR code at the within the store itself, to see what people are asking. Um, and they will want to analyze that information at real time in real time because the interactions are so seamless. Like imagine if the company who you were going to buy that product off was able to access that discussion that you just had, right? Imagine how valuable that is. That's more valuable than a Google search, like
Oh,
in a lot of
I mean, I
instances,
spent
right?
20 minutes talking to the thing.
Imagine if they were able to get that data and come back to you within 10 minutes with an offer.
Yeah.
So
I probably
there
would have
is
bought it, which is
yeah,
not necessarily a
there's
good thing.
huge this is our insight. This is our insight into this business. And we've basically built the prototype. Like I would say it's sort of better than a prototype now. It's sort of like a very much working piece of software. Um, and it's very dynamic. Like you can put it on your website, you can put a phone number against it, you can add it to like a customer service line. You can and it just it's the same voice. You can prompt it however you like. You can train it with your own documents and data and information. This is a world. This AI voice world is still not even started. It is very much at its initial days.
Yeah, yeah, and I find just more and more I just am in these conversations with these, it was like there's something we want to buy for the yard, And I did something similar. I said, okay, like tell me who sells these with and can deliver them within the DC zip code.
Yeah.
And okay, now tell me, what their better Business Bureau ratings are between the companies. And
Mm.
it was an incredible way of, just kind of interactively, shopping for a pretty big purchase.
Yeah.
And
Maybe I'm wrong. Like maybe these big firms will monetize that data. Maybe OpenAI will go and sell if they have a conversation, they can go and sell that information to someone. So there is a
oh,
huge.
I can't imagine they won't, you know.
Yeah, eventually, capitalism will force them to force them to do that. The other insight I think I had as well is that how everyone's saying that Google is disrupting themselves with these AI overviews in this AI mode. Like a lot of people are saying, well, Google's core search business, I think, yeah, I mean, there's no doubt, it is getting disrupted, even though they're making more money out of it than ever because they're just jacking up the prices on ads and they're just like basically the front page in these things is just is all for ads now. It's just all ads. Um, I actually have a feeling that AI mode they are going to be able to monetize AI mode better than they have actually been able to monetize search mode. Like that is my latest
Yeah.
thinking. And they're just training everyone. They're just training everyone on this new form of finding information. And then soon enough, when everyone's like used to it, they'll be inserting little links. They'll be inserting links for all the different advertising verticals of people who are paying them the most money to be there. And
Yep.
I think it's going to be they will make far more money from that type of advertising than they have made from search because still like it's even more high intent in a lot of cases because you can get the AI to basically tell you like this is the best solution and all this kind of stuff. So look, obviously there's like a lot of gray areas there, but um, yeah, I think one part of their business may be getting somewhat disrupted and they're milking it like crazy, but they're creating a new one, which is going to be massive. And
Oh yeah.
OpenAI and Claude and Cursor and all these other guys, Lovable, they're all creating the same sort of business in my opinion.
Well, I mean, I think I read in the Neuron the other day that they were talking about the Google AI search, and I think they said 88% of people who use it don't click beyond the AI search. Like they get what they need from that. And you think about
Yep.
that, and that's a complete revision of the search model. I mean, that's why, when Perplexity first came out, we were both like, this is amazing because it's not just giving you, here's a needle in a haystack that I want. It's not saying, well, here are 20 haystacks to look in. It's saying here's where the needle is, go confirm this is what the needle you wanted. And
Mm,
it's just at one level, it's disturbing in terms of kind of how disruptive that's been to content creators. I mean, like, it's like what you're saying, like, it's just,
mm.
it's totally trashed, blogs and forums and, everything else. But at the same time, from a user standpoint, it just gives you what you want, like right off the bat.
Yep.
And, I kind of like what Cloudflare did, which is they've now given people a tool to say, hey, there's now a middle ground between basically putting a block on your website from it being scraped and having kind of an open gateway for these firms to scrape whatever they want. It's like you can now put a toll gate up and say, okay, you can scrape my website, but for this amount.
Mm.
And that to me was a very clever, kind of middleman strategy.
Yeah, look, there's so much to play out here. I don't know what Cloudflare is doing is right or if it's going to help or not. I honestly don't know. But I mean, look, I've seen it firsthand. I've told you, like for months. I've seen it. I've seen the complete destruction of the online information model. Providing information model, and there's no going back. there's no going back. I mean, I've accepted it, even though it sucks, but it's not coming back. There's just no way. There's no way it's coming back. The internet where you provided information, tried to get ranked in Google. I mean, it's just basically over. I mean, there's a remnants of it that's still around,
Yeah.
but like if every it's you see online, the people in that community who are posting, it's like everyone's numbers are going down. I mean, mine went down a lot quicker, because I think of the sort of sector that we are in, where it made a lot more sense. But everything's going down. Everything.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not coming back, and the internet economy is just changing. It's changing now. You have to adjust. These adjustments have happened in the past, right?
Hmm.
This is just happening quite quickly, and you have to adjust. Like a lot of but technology changes fast all the time. It is a rapidly changing environment. If you want to get into technology or tech and expect everything to stay the same consistently year after year after year, you're probably in the wrong business in a lot of cases. It's just not the game that is played. One of the things I think is happening online, and it's probably been happening over time, but there's very few gatekeepers now. If you think about your online activity or your digital activity, and if I think about mine, I'm going through big tech. Like I'm using big tech primarily. I'm very rarely going to, it's quite rare. It's quite. I mean, you go into other websites for experiences or to go and do some sort of thing on some niche software, but it's the big tech are the gateways. Social media, YouTube, these big players are really the portal into online, into the online universe now. It's not like you get distributed out to all these little niches now. Like you've got to, if you want to play the game, if you want to be in their game, you've either got to pay, you got to pay these guys. You got to pay these guys to play their game now, or to be in their portals, to be seen and to be visible. So it's a totally different game.
Well, I mean, it's interesting in the sense that I don't even really use a web browser anymore. That I just do all my searching through an MCP tool. And now there's one called Breite Cove that it'll solve CAPTCHAs. It'll basically make its way around, a lot of the blocks that, kind of the anti-scraping mechanisms that, places like LinkedIn and Microsoft have.
Mm.
Um, and so it's got like, I mean, I don't even know. I think it's got like 30 odd tools for browsing. And so I just basically turn the thing loose and say, you go find me this data, or you go find
Mhm.
me a place that sells X. And and it does. And I don't even, frankly, until it returns, I don't even know where it's going. You know?
Yeah, that's kind of like the deep research, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what's doing all the searching now, which has no value to like I see it searching all these websites when I'm using even just web search on ChatGPT. I'm like going, these websites are getting zero value for the content that you're providing. Zero. It's kind of warped. It's totally warped, right? Um,
Yeah, because I don't see ads or anything.
I
It's
know, like
like,
it's kind of like what's the point in them putting out this content if ChatGPT is just scraping it? So I don't know. Maybe Cloudflare, like I just don't know. I don't know. Maybe Cloudflare is right in what they're doing. I mean, there's totally some disconnect here. There's totally like now you used to provide content for Google to search, like so that you could maybe upsell or make money off ads or something like that. But now they're just scraping 300 websites on a deep research and providing like absolutely zero to the people providing that content. So it's very warped. It's very warped. And it's also why, you know, honestly, I'm a massive cheerleader for new startups here, like new ways of doing things. That maybe, these guys seem to be sucking out a lot of value from everyone else just for their own benefit in a lot of cases. I mean, yeah, that's kind of how I feel sometimes. It's like when you look at some of this behavior, even though they're giving you a lot of shiny toys on the other side, that you can play with and stuff. So it's an interesting world.
I kind of feel like the court got it exactly right on the Anthropic decision, which is that you can't pirate this information. You gotta obtain the information legally, but once you obtain it, kind
Mm,
of using it to train models is a fair use.
right.
And I thought that was a really a really wise decision in terms of that, it doesn't just, you know, basically, rubber stamp thievery, but at the same time, it's like it recognizes that kind of chopping it up into tokens and, you know,
Mm,
reanalyzing it is a fundamentally different thing.
mm,
And,
mm.
that is a fair use. And so, I think it provides, kind of ethical, thoughtful companies a really clear path to do some interesting stuff.
Yeah. I
And I was
just
I was
yeah. The the model, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you're a content creator, right? Like the model around creating content is so busted at the moment. It's so busted. Um, and I struggle with this daily. It's like, why spend any time putting out quality content? Like that's kind of the I mean, I guess you got to share your ideas in some way, but um I don't know. I just don't see that many people succeeding from putting out a lot of content these days. Like I honestly don't. Um
Well, I want to ask you about that because in some respects, you're a perfect person to evaluate this because
mm,
all your stuff from Enterprise DNA got scraped, or a lot of it did. The blogs, the
I'm sure
forums,
of it. Yeah.
and I know it did because when I question Google now a lot,
Mm,
those things come up,
yeah.
and I mean, at some level, it's like you didn't authorize that. That's you know that's your content, but at the same time you think about that and it's like, in a way, how cool is that? Like, it's like, should you have been compensated for it? Yes. But at the same time, that that information now probably hits a much wider, kind of global scope than it ever would have before. Because somebody would have had to intentionally go to that information, whereas now it's just judging that for this given question is a credible, useful source, and it's pushing that directly out. I mean, I'm finding some of my old, videos and posts are, showing up when I query AI, and
Mm.
there's part of me that I'm like, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I don't feel like I really ever came up with that many original ideas. I mean, maybe I constructed them in a way that was kind of a bit different, but I don't really feel like anything that I or like Enterprise DNA created deserved anything more. Like I don't feel like we deserve like to be paid or anything like that. I don't think that at all. Because we learned off other people. I learned off other people, and I was reformulating it in my mind and then resharing it in a lot of cases. Like this is knowledge. This is how intelligence has been shared, through our history. I'm just sort of looking at the here and now and going, oh, the entire to do it now just seems completely busted. Like there's just zero incentives for content creation in a lot of ways. Like at the moment, I'm not like it might. I think it will change, right? Because there's businesses more reliant on content than me than Enterprise DNA. Far more. There's probably hundreds of thousands who are getting stuffed more than even more than us in that space. So yeah, it's just the model is broken. The model is totally broken, and I don't know how it's going to be fixed. I mean, obviously, I think something will come in here, but I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I mean, it's just totally busted at the moment. And I even read something on a couple of people on LinkedIn going, "My blog's down so much. What's the point of me even creating content anymore?" Um, like And even on LinkedIn, I struggle to see the point in a lot of cases. Like I'm still posting and I'm still posting in other places, but these platforms never let you market. They never give you visibility over things that you're like doing or marketing. Uh, you know, it feels like the only way to go viral in these places or to get views these days is to post something controversial or to get like a lot of discussion going. And and then that forces you to do things that are sort of out of the ordinary. So, look, it's just busted. It's just totally busted. I mean, you got to find a way. You just got to find a way in this new reality. From what that's my experience anyway.
You know, I've been talking to Greg Deckler about this a lot, 'cause he pulled all his, in kind of protest of,
Yeah.
Microsoft and, OpenAI, kind of taking his, his content without, without compensation. He pulled it all off, and I totally understand that, and I'm sympathetic to that decision. And what he did is he transferred it all to Medium, where he said, okay, I'm not
Mhm.
going to make a lot of money on this, but at least I'm getting, compensated for my content. And, and it definitely is a smaller market, but there's part of me that, I kind of look at it in terms of, I'm still creating content, but I'm doing it because, you know, content creation is what is now the best way for me to learn. That in a sense, it's like I totally love that other people benefit from it and enjoy it. But in some sense, even if they didn't, I would still do it because it's the best way for me to make myself a better analyst. That it provides some level of accountability, and it also, like, I mean, for that post I did today about, kind of Power BI and the weakness of the visualization approach I think they've taken. I
Mm.
did a deep dive on, kind of the implications of the Power BI data formats and what can and can't be done on those. And I feel like I understand that so much better than I would have if I hadn't created that content. And so, and that's information that's going to be really valuable to me. And so, in some sense, it's like content for me has become what I used to do courses for, or I used to watch videos for, that now with AI being so interactive, I just basically decide, okay, I'm going to create content on this topic. And then I kind of learn it. And
Mm.
it's become more my professional development than anything else. And so, in some sense, even if I never published it, I would still get much of the same benefit that I get.
Mm.
But then,
Mm.
when you publish it, it's like there's a public benefit, and it's also just, it's a nice boost to know that other people are finding it useful. But even if they didn't, I'd still be doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, look, I totally get all those points for sure. For sure. I really do get all those points. Yeah, look, I just think it's a new reality. It's a new reality.
Yeah.
It's not like I think a lot of people are pissed. A lot of people are sort of throwing their hands up in the air. And look, I've had moments where I've done that as well, but just got to find a new way. You got to find a new way to find customers, to create a product that works in this new era, or evolve a product that works in this new era, and that's just the reality that everyone has to deal with now. The world has changed. I mean, even all these big tech firms are changing their products like rapidly. Like, that's just the base reality right now. And look, I haven't got it all figured out, but I mean, I'm absolutely sprinting to create something quite new, and every day I think I'm evolving us closer to where I want to be and where I want to go and what I want enterprise DNA and all these other things that I'm in now, to where I'm hoping that for them to be. So yeah, it's just a bit of a journey.
I think it goes back to what you said earlier, which is that the human in the loop still matters and you're still in charge. And I kind of feel like there is enormous value in kind of you knowing what you know about data, about development, about AI, about analysis, that you being able to lead that team is incredibly valuable to to organizations and people out there. And it's
Yeah.
like what the market is and what the mechanism for selling that service and marketing that service is, I don't know yet, but I do
Mm.
know that there are not a lot of people out there who know that full set of skills well enough to manage that team effectively and to generate the results that somebody with your skill set or my skill set is able to do. And so
Mm.
I really think I don't see, even as AI gets smarter and smarter, that is going to go away anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't see that going away. I see orchestration becoming this new terminology, like we're orchestrating agents to do a variety of different things. Look, I totally agree with you. I totally agree that that having all these skills is insanely valuable, insanely valuable. And that's, it's about finding where to position that in this
Yeah.
new economy. I think just positioning that as in a from a just like an information source, I think is going to probably struggle in this new reality, right? So you got to become that can still be sort of one part, but you got to be more than that. In my view, I think we've got to be software and we've got to be services, and so that's kind of the evolution that enterprise DNA is now definitively on, is that we're creating new software and productivity solutions, and we've brought in this new element of services where we're actually going to help develop and launch software within organizations or with partners and things like that. So we're already well on our way to doing that. The other and look, and that's just, I think everyone's going to, a lot of businesses are going to have to do that. I think we're seeing that. I even think we're seeing that maybe in people that we've interacted with over the past like 5 to 10 years. Like I do, a lot of people are starting to have to do that. The um the other big insight, well, the other insight that I've had is that I think you need to charge more. You need to charge more. I think the days of, and this is purely a function of like how much it costs to acquire a customer in this digital world. Having a $30 a month product is economic in this new environment. It actually is, because um, you basically get no visibility as a business online these days unless you pay
Mhm.
Google, LinkedIn, Twitter. It's very, very, or even YouTube in a lot of cases. Not all cases, I'm saying here. In general, you have to pay. So like you can have outliers and stuff. Um, so you have to create a product and you have to charge for that product, and it needs to be of higher value. It needs to be of higher value. The customer needs to see that, okay, wow, this is going to provide me a lot of value. As an example, I signed up for a CloudCode $200 subscription within 10 minutes of hearing about it, because I thought $200 is nothing compared to how much time it's going to save me
I did the
in
same
a
thing.
month, right? So those are sort of I think that's sort of like baseline, like what you've got to charge a lot, but you've also got to showcase like you provide insane value straight away, over and above those things. And I think that's what you're going to find with a lot of software. Like I think, yeah, and I think it's already happening. Like I went back to Lovable the other day. Their starter plan is $50 a month. Like that's 150% more than it was 6 months ago. So
Yeah.
like everything's going to be a lot more expensive from a software point of view.
Well, I don't think it's just software. I think from a consulting standpoint, for example, like that it's not going to you're not going to get charged on an hourly basis as much. I think you're going to get charged on a value basis.
Mm,
Because if you can do, a week's worth of analysis in 2 hours,
yeah.
you're not going to charge just 2 hours at your old flat rate. You're going to charge
Yeah, that's a great
what
point.
is the
Yeah.
value to the business of the information you're providing,
Mm,
irregardless of how long it takes you to generate that. If
yeah.
you've got a unique ability or there's a limited pool of people who can do that, then it's not about how long it takes you. It's about what the business can do with that information in terms of outcomes they want to generate. And so,
Yeah.
as I look at, kind of the way data analysis is evolving, that you looked at kind of previously people just doing so much descriptive analysis, and I kind of feel like that isn't worth jack now. It's like, I can do that. I can do that in 35 seconds in Plotly Studio.
Yeah.
Now it's like, okay, to be an analyst and to be viable, you've got to be able to do, predictive analysis. You've got to be able to make, clear recommendations. You've got to be able to be prescriptive. That it's way up the scale of what is now acceptable for a data analyst to be. And I think in
Yeah.
some respects, the line between data analysis and data scientist is going to blur significantly. Um,
Oh,
you know, be,
100%. I think it already has. Like,
yeah.
as soon as GPT-4 came out, I mean, it was very adequate data scientist, like from an ideation point of view, from helping you do it. I mean, but then now, I mean, honestly, like something like Claude Code can already do incredible analysis for you. Like not visualization stuff, but it basically is like a data agent. Basically, like it already is.
Oh, yeah.
Its interaction with I mean, I've only interacted with Superbase with Claude Code. But it's just like any database, right? It's just writing SQL and getting insights back. I mean, it's absolutely insane how quick and fast it is. Like, and I can spin up four of these at one time. Like, I mean, it already is disrupting data, like historical data tools. Like in my opinion, it's not widespread, obviously, but this is what's going to be everywhere. Like, absolutely everywhere. You know. I mean, we already discussed this at length a couple of months ago, I think. But um, these things are crazy. I saw a great post the other day. I haven't been going on LinkedIn as much, to be honest, because I'd rather like bang my head against a wall than read the feed sometimes. But I did see a good post by Art Tenek, I think,
Artenic. Yeah.
and
Yeah. He's a brilliant guy. And I've
yeah,
gotten to be good friends with him and actually work on a
yeah,
project with him together.
great, yeah. Like he was basically just sort of reiterating what you've been saying, like with all the right things connected now, you can analyze so much more, right? Like you can analyze so much more. It's more dynamic. Um, this is actually one of the things I kind of didn't agree with Rob with last week. I mean, I don't know if you want to disagree with Rob, since you kind of work with him, but
Oh, we definitely disagree on certain points. So, it's like that's what I like about him is he's
yeah,
not dogmatic.
like I just don't believe the cement. There's kind of like a bit of a romance with this semantic model concept with Microsoft people and Microsoft MVPs. I don't think it's as big a moat as most think it is. I agree that it's a great concept, and yes, historically it made a lot of sense. Like yes, a semantic model makes a lot of sense, right? But when I'm using these new tools and seeing how fast they can iterate, how fast they can do it, how many things I can spin up at one time, I'm just going, does the semantic model even mean any? Does it even matter in this case? Like, you can prompt your way to get to the insight you want eventually, right? Like, maybe it might not come back the first time right, but you can eventually get there, right? And there's going to be tools that sit on top of these AIs that just bypass the semantic model. They bypass the data model. I mean, you can already do it in Claude Code with an MCP connection. You can already do it.
Right.
And but so that's just one thing. This is one thing. I just don't believe that as much from what I'm seeing right now. Maybe even like 6 months ago, I still kind of believed it, but right now I don't, because of what how fast these agents can work and how much they can do in one shot. But the other thing is, I think this goes to my word of like romance with semantic model. Is like, have you gone into an organization and seen what these models actually look like? In a lot of cases, they're a complete and utter mess, an absolute mess. How can you say? How can you believe that this is optimal. This is like the semantic model just solves everything in these organizations. Like honestly, the semantic model probably confuses things in a lot of organizations. So
Well, I kind of feel like you ask 10 data people what does a semantic model layer mean? And you'll get 12 different answers. Yeah. And so, the fact that I don't even think we agree as a field on
mm,
exactly what that concept is.
yeah,
And to me, what it means is it's the it's basically the information that lets you run and rerun an analysis over and over again and get the same results. So it's
yeah,
the data you use, it's the routines you use to clean it, it's the structure of the data, it's the questions you ask, and it's the way you answer those questions analytically. And beyond that, if you've got that in any form, whether it's, Tyndall or whether it's, Markdown or whatever it is, if you've got that conclusive where you can say, I can give this to an analyst or to an AI with this data set and say, go forth and do the analysis that's specified here, and they will always come back with the same answer. I don't, I don't see that anything more is needed. You know, it's
mm,
like I'm not sure what anybody in an organization would need beyond that. I mean, maybe there's some optimization in terms of when you're talking about, hundreds of millions or billions of rows of data, in
mm,
terms of that you need a structure that runs that appropriately. But from a theoretical conceptual basis, it just seems to me to be the metadata and the information necessary to get the answer in a predictable way. I mean, do you
yeah.
do you see it as any different than that?
No, no, that's kind of how I see it. Is like you can prompt and set up your way to get a semantic model or get the answer, right?
Oh yeah.
And look, it might not come back with the right answer the very first time. Just like when I'm using Claude Code to work on an application, it's not getting it right on the first time, but you can eventually kind of get to where you need to go. Maybe with data and data insights, like maybe there's a slightly different dynamic there, but I think that there could be sub agents that go and check work and things like that. So I think there's always a way to get, like from what I'm seeing with the agents, there's a way to get to the semantic model now without having a semantic model, like without having a model. The other thing I kind of like I don't know. Let's just say I kind of roll my eyes at is that the semantic model is great in a perfect world, right? Like, okay, so a lot of us like BI professionals in the past, particularly as Power BI moved from originally Power BI was sort of quite disruptive. It was kind of get the data in the hands of information like front office people. Like that's how I got into it. Uh, but as it's kind of gradually moved to IT and IT sort of taken it over, it's kind of now become this, okay, everything's got to be perfect and blah, 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 blah. This is sort of like the evolution. But then everyone thinks, okay, in a perfect world, like let's get our semantic model perfect, right? But from my experience, it never is. It absolutely never is. That's not the world that a lot of businesses live in. Data in a lot of cases is just messy by default, right? Um, and so much money and time has historically spent on getting that data perfect for your semantic model. I think in the future, you're going to be just far better off forgetting about all of that and just setting the AI agents off in a lot of cases to do a lot of that work. Like I would even say that's happening now. I just haven't worked on a data project in the last like couple of months, but last few months actually. But that's like you can get the agents to write SQL to set up your database, to build your pipelines, to upload data like you did from deep research. Like this is totally different to what is done before and does not require all this semantic modeling in a lot of cases. I mean, not everyone agrees with us on that. Like I think,
Yeah.
but that's kind of what I'm seeing. I mean, in a lot of cases, the people that don't agree with us are doing it for particular reasons.